for watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread Teepa's positive approach message around the world. And don't forget to click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted.
Well, hello everybody out on YouTube and to everyone in the room. We have a few of our PAC team here who will be responding to things that people might bring up in the Zoom room. And Matthew will be primarily responsible for going out into the YouTube world and responding and bringing in your questions. Rachel's job, Rachel's job, she's got some questions that have already come in, so she'll be sharing those out. Beth and Cheryl, I sign, there you go. We'll also be monitoring the Zoom room, and if someone has a question that they want to ask in the Zoom room, if you type it in the chat, what will happen is one of them will pick it up and then we'll pass it over to Rachel and we'll get you in the line to make sure your questions get answered if you haven't already submitted them. If I've already submitted them, I know that a couple of you all have, and we have you in the mix. So we do have a couple of folks here who are also PAC mentors. They're a couple of our team, Joanna Fix and Lynn Moore, both of whom are living with dementia. And so they serve as our consultants for people living with dementia and give that perspective and point of view frequently. And Lynn, you've got FTD? Yeah, no, maybe, yes. That's Lynn has FTD and Joanna has young onset Alzheimer's. That's what they're living with, their sort of their thing. And then Lynn also helps take care of her mom, who has another kind of dementia. So makes life a little interesting. So we have Laura also, who's very active, and Denise, both of whom are active in our PAC community. So those are two other folks that are pretty busy. All right, so Rachel, I'm going to throw it over your way to see what our first question popping up is.
Well, our first question, I thought maybe we would explore Donnie's situation a little bit, if that's okay with you, Donnie. He has a very challenging situation and actually kind of sad, because it's a question of, is this a normal progression, or is this something that's kind of being helped along by what's been going on? So his dad is actually 99 years and a half. So he's getting close to 100. And up until about 3 weeks ago, they kind of had things where they figured out how to work. And if something wasn't working, they basically walked out, waited a while, and waited for a reset, came back. 3 weeks ago, however,
the reset was because Dad began to think things that weren't real, and were often out of sequence, out of time, but also inaccurate in that sometimes he was talking about things that were not actually there, that he thought had been there, and things had happened that have not happened in the recent past. But after a short window, they'd pause, and then he would be able to come back into now, more or less, into the situation, and with some support, be able to make it through okay. Yeah.
Also, some of that is he would refuse to cooperate with certain things, and so you give him a little time, and rather than try to force an issue.
Yeah. So you guys were really good at, backing away, giving it a chance, try it another way, offer, instead of offering water, offering juice, instead of this, try that, go to another space, make that, see if that'll work. So you guys were really flexible, and you and your brother. So then Rachel, let's take up the story, because Rachel's the one with the writing in front of her. So I'm passing it back to her, because she actually put it in writing, and we're sharing it out here now.
So about and Donnie, feel free to jump in. About 3 weeks ago, they had an incident where the dad really got into a place of just didn't really know. It was about 36 hours or so of being up and around and moving, but it was like he was in his own world, and no matter what they did, they couldn't really connect and couldn't really get to him and get him, reach him. He just was kind of in a different place. And so he ended up in a confrontational situation with one of the sons, which didn't end well. And so Donnie was able to come in, and after about 2 hours of being in a pretty tight grip finally got things calmed down, but it also ended up in ambulance ride, hospital, et cetera, where he ended up being in a posy vest for about 2 weeks. And that wasn't good. And he was also kind of not necessarily always real with it. Sometimes he was interested in food. Sometimes he would connect, interact, sometimes not so much. So when he was okay and not trying to get out of the bed for a day, they shipped him off to rehab in a skilled nursing facility. And now he's not really responsive, on top of being put on meds, so like gabapentin and on a pretty high dose. So now he's not really responding. And so he's acting a lot more like a pearl. So the question is this normal? Is this okay? Or is this something we should do something about? Is that close, Donnie?
Yeah, that's pretty close. The doctors, I don't know what a high or a low dose of gabapentin is, but they had started him on a 3 times daily dose of like 50 milligrams, and at the end of a hospital stay, that was up to 100 milligrams every 3 times a day. I mean, I was seeing.
How much does your dad weigh, Donnie? Just out of curiosity.
I would estimate 160 pounds.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Maybe 170, but no more than that.
And he's how tall is he?
Well, he peaked out around 6'1".
Okay.
And now he's a few inches shorter than that.
Okay.
He's lost a lot of muscle.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, I bet. How about any other meds, like remarkable meds that he's on? And they didn't find anything at the hospital. Did he have a urinary tract infection or an upper respiratory infection when he was at the hospital?
No infection, no assignable cause. The other medications, he had been on hospice a little over a year ago.
Okay.
And the hospice people had helped us with using melatonin and methadone to help manage, particularly his evening time was getting hard, and they explained that as sort of he can't express his pain anymore, but he's being thrown off by it. I'm not sure what his medication situation is right now.
Okay.
They have him on an IV at the moment because he's kind of just curled up in a special wheelchair and not really responding.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the sequence. This sequence is not, I would not ever anticipate this to be the sequence that I would see for a normal progression of dementia. That's not, the only difference would be if somebody had vascular dementia and had a stroke or a brain infarct that was pretty significant, then I would expect a sudden drop in abilities, like sudden though, and then maybe some recovery. But this pattern, I would expect that something had triggered that level of distress in him immediately preceding the event, if you would. That 36 hours of acute sort of not being able to settle, not being able to figure things out. I would anticipate, and how well was he taking things in and fluid intake during that 36 hours, Donnie?
We have a home health aide who comes in the mornings. He was able to feed him on one of the mornings. My dad had been actually, I'd say for a couple of weeks, had been less interested in eating. I was getting really worried about his fluid intake.
Okay.
And but that was leading up to this.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a high possibility that he got dehydrated and his electrolytes went out of whack, which was what was causing his acute distress, because human beings are designed to have the right amount of sodium, potassium, the right amount of nutrients, and the right amount of fluid in the mix. And so sometimes when we see people in this sort of acute sort of, I would call it almost distress state, because he was messing with stuff and moving, and he wasn't able to settle, and he wasn't able to sit, and he wasn't able to do that. That speaks to somebody who's really having a hard time figuring out what in the world is going on here, and he's in constant seek mode. So he's constantly seeking something and not satisfied. But he wasn't necessarily actively resisting fluid and fuel, but just not seeking that. He was seeking something, but it wasn't that. But he was up and mobile. So when you finally got, and he became acutely distressed with your brother trying to help at some point, like acutely distressed. And unfortunately, your brother and he got into and so your brother panicked, and your brother was also hurting because he's older too. So I wouldn't expect this deterioration this rapidly. I think what it speaks to, however, is once he got out of whack, trying to figure it out and bring him back into alignment, hospitals are not necessarily the best places for people like your dad in that state, because they're not really trained in how to do work with people in later state dementia. And so restraining him with a posy vest and giving him, and so gabapentin is used primarily as an anti-seizure medication. But there's not really evidence your dad had seizures, so they were trying to use it as a medication to manage behavior. And it can be used that way. It can be used as a behavior management med, or in some places people think it might be helpful with discomfort, but it's not a primary medication that's gonna, it's designed as an anti-epileptic medication is what it's designed for. And it's being used in this case to try to get a brain to go down in function. And I'm wondering if it was a little excessive, so that it actually caused your dad to go into more of a state of dysfunction. So the question is, is he still on that level of gabapentin, 100 times 3 a day?
I assume so, but I haven't been able to go over the list of meds with the nurses yet.
Yeah. So they're hydrating him, so he's probably not dehydrated now. And the fact that he's not coming back alert speaks to something else happening, because he was alert when he was hydrated. It's when I suspect he was starting to not be hydrated and not be interested, and something was causing that. Now, the meds that he had taken, he was taking them right up until the incident. Is that true, or had you not been able to get him to take the meds for 3 days?
We'd been okay on meds.
Okay, so it wasn't that he hadn't gotten the meds. He'd gotten all the meds he'd usually been getting. Which then says there was something else going on. It's not real likely that it was directly dementia. It's more likely that it was something else, but not an acute infection of a bladder, of lungs, of anything like that. But he very likely got dehydrated during that process of really moving around and being very active and moving around and being, and he probably also was exhausted, because 3 days of that level of activity is exhausting. But then getting that amount of med on board for a 99-plus-year-old might be a little extreme. So anybody else have some thoughts? Because that's that's a lot of med to have on board for somebody who had never had it before and didn't actually ever have a seizure that we can document. And it's one thing, you'd been successful with melatonin and a morphine. No.
Methadone.
methadone, rather than a morphine. So you weren't even using a centrally acting med in the same way, because methadone is sort of a different med. So makes me a little bit, that seems like an artificial progression a little bit. And he may, if the med is dropped back, or he may choose at this point, can I go home? And he may opt to just not continue, because it's a lot of hard work to come back from there. How are you guys feeling about his present state?
Well, my attitude is I'm gonna wait and see how he develops. My brother's attitude after that
The event?
wrestling match he had was that he was afraid
Yeah,
of
that's
having
the
my
problem.
father at home if we had that
If
kind
this
of
was
a
a new
wrestling match
pattern.
again.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing we're concerned about now is will he get his strength back? Because we'll have trouble muscling him around if that's
Yeah,
necessary.
I would say it's highly unlikely he's going to go back to be the same mobile being he was for, if ever, for quite some time. It's been how many days in the hospital?
This first happened on the 9th, so he's been in unfamiliar surroundings since
Wow.
then.
Okay, the 9th. Whoa, okay, that's
It's
a
like 2
lot.
weeks in the hospital.
Yeah, that's a long time to be immobilized. And so the recovery from that for somebody who had been mobile, got immobilized with a posy vest and then in a chair and not moving for that length of time, the recovery from that is pretty low probability, given that he was already losing a lot of muscle mass around large joints. Anybody else wanted, Beth or Cheryl or anybody? I mean, is he eating now at all?
Past 2 days, I haven't seen him eat. I've seen evidence that they've tried to feed him, and he's ends up with food on the front of his face, and I think he may be pocketing some of the food.
Ooh,
I don't
okay.
think he's aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my sense. I've been there for a couple of lunches, and the first couple he did all right with queuing and with me, feeding him after the PT people worked with queuing. The last 2 days I haven't been there for the lunch, and it doesn't look like that he's eating.
Had he recently identified at all, like, can I go home? Is it time to go home? Can I be at home at all?
Not since he was in the hospital.
Okay, when he was in the hospital, he wanted to go home?
He did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes the transition for somebody who's experienced massive changes is when they talk about going home, they're talking about leaving this place and going to a home beyond this space and time and place. And sometimes they're simply talking about going back to a safe place of safety. So Beth, did you have anything, or Rachel, Cheryl, anything you wanted to contribute in, or anybody else?
The bottom line is, this is one of those ones that I would immediately go back to my head of 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. And if someone has that dramatic of a change that happens to them in 2 days, that to me says delirium. However, I haven't found with somebody who is of that age, who also previously has a diagnosis of dementia, that after the regular series of tests and panels are completed, there's almost like this wash that comes over a calm. It's like, well, if it's not immediately evident here, I'm just wondering how much we really want to do. And I say this with all due respect of knowing where this is coming from, that when someone has a dementia and they also have that huge delirium, that balance, something happened acutely happened, that it's a lot of strain and stress on the body to help that brain and body work together again. So I think that physicians, a lot of times, and nurses are a little bit stuck. It is a hard situation to deal with someone of that age with a progressive, disease, and then they also have delirium. That being said, what I'm not hearing is a lot of information that seemed to have been fully communicated on what was explored, what wasn't explored, and is this a man who, in spite of his age, was ready to go? And that, I think, is a question. I wonder if that's why you're here, and if that's not the satisfaction that someone was able to give you in that moment. That's my question. Did they have a greater conversation about what else or other exploration that they might have done to help him feel better when he did get into the hospital?
I don't remember anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that for me is the missing piece. Comfort care should have immediately been putting someone in a posy vest and putting them on gabapentin is not comfort care. That's something else. And I'm sorry, it's just something else. That is not comfort care, because that would be, okay, talk to me about some of the things that your dad classically does that brings comfort. What kind of music? What kind of activities? Does he like sitting up or lying back? Is there one side of his body he's more comfortable on the other when he's resting? What are some things he likes to look at, or what kind of activities have you been able to do with him? And those kind of comfort means, so we move into comfort zone and see if we get him more comfortable, how does he do? And that doesn't sound like that was something that happened.
I don't remember much of that, and
Yeah.
and there's been none of that at the
Pacific.
rehab place that he's been
Yeah.
to that I can recall.
Yeah. So this would be where I think, Donnie, the thing that I would suggest the possibility is I want to talk to somebody about palliative care, not hospice, palliative care for my dad. I want some more comfort care provided to my dad. Is there a comfort care support system you have in place? Because gabapentin doesn't necessarily bring comfort. It brings lack of arousal and alertness, and it can also affect swallowing and make it harder to swallow effectively when you get
dysphagia is something he already is dealing with.
Yeah, so making him groggier is not necessarily recommended when he's going to be eating or drinking, because it increases the risk then of a pneumonia. And so that's a higher risk condition. So it seems like comfort for right now, with an awareness, he may go either direction. He may recover, he may go down, but we need to, like, why so much gabapentin now? What do we think that's doing? And what else is happening? And what else are we doing to support him and encouraging him to be present versus letting him drift away when you're not there? Because it sounds like when you're there, you're really making an effort to connect to your dad, and your brother is frightened, which is legit. He got in a really scary situation. And I think both of you are very aware, if he doesn't recover a good bit, being able to care for him the way you have isn't going to be an option. We're going to have to look at something else. So bringing up comfort care now, either way, really makes a difference, because that's where he's at, is not sounding particularly comfortable for him. So we appreciate you bringing it up. It's unfortunately a story we hear way too often, because people don't seem to have that transition idea of something has happened. So now let's figure out during this hospital stay, what can we do, instead of how do we keep him stable until we can get him out of here, which is much more of a profile, because we've checked out the things we can think of. And so there's really nothing we can do. And it's like, there is too. There's palliative care that should be instituted right away. If it's not curative, then how about palliative? And if our hospitals aren't going to do it, then continuing to admit people who benefit from palliative care and come up with a game plan with family isn't making sense. That's just not making sense. And then to send them to rehab without there being people recognizing maybe we're at palliative here, and let's put the game plan in place. Let's bring the family, let's talk through this. That's not all right for people living with dementia. It's not fair to anybody.
Is there anything that we should have looked at that might have caused the event and we should look at now?
The one thing I wonder is it possible that he started having a reaction to the medication regime that he was on, and it got things out of whack. And it just sort of snowballed after that. He's so fragile. I mean, that's the reality. His system is pretty fragile at 99. A little tiny tip, and there's that balancing point is so fragile. I can't think. Anyone else thinking of something I'm not thinking of? Dehydration. The electrolyte imbalance is the one that I think they might have not really talked about, and yet thought that was probably what it was, caused mostly by dehydration. Impaction is another. How are his bowels doing?
We've been doing pretty well with that, I think.
Okay.
I think we'd gotten doing some fiber things and had him on kind of a high fiber diet and gotten him to be, regular within a day, 2 days.
Okay, that's reasonable. Okay, that would be the only other thing I can think of right off the top. Laura, did you have a thought?
I was just wondering, somebody that old, what about breaking a bone when he sat down?
It could be that he broke something. He could have an undiagnosed fracture somewhere, which is making him so uncomfortable he can't settle. Yeah. And it could be in a part of the body that nobody has noticed. So any kind of that, it's called counter irritant behavior, where I'm just trying to keep from feeling the pain and I keep doing something to not feel the pain, which is a possibility. So that's a good one, Laura, to think about. Have they done just a body scan to make sure he has no undisclosed fractures? Either pelvis is a really good place to look for it, rib cage or thoracic spine. And because he's somewhat sedated, he may not be able to give you a really nice, strong visual reaction to something. He may not give a wince like you or I would in that situation, or we wouldn't even be able to move in that situation. But he's now that may be part of the problem as well. So that would be something else to look at.
He is healing 2 rib fractures now that he collected during the incident with my brother.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's one of those things where it might have actually been something a little deeper than that. It may be down in the lower body where nobody would notice, or an ankle or foot where he's got a bone that's, is broken, or maybe it's in his low back. He's got something going on, but it's not like you or I where we can point to that and say, that's what this is, ow, ow, ow. And so the behavior escalates because he's feeling the discomfort, the pain. And the methadone isn't going to touch that. I mean, that's not the kind of pain that can be touched by some of those meds. If it's a fracture, it's a fresh fracture somewhere.
So if he were to go off the gabapentin, and go on to something called palliative care, then there's a chance that you can do this kind of a search with him and see if he, if he's stabilized, if he's gotten over something,
around a little bit, starting to heal a little bit, starting to come back to himself a little bit, because he's more of himself than he was. Now, this is not your dad. I mean, you can readily see the difference between your dad before and your dad now. And it is, wow, that's a marked change. Yeah. So at least, and now the tricky part is now that they've got him on the gabapentin is taking him back off, because then you have to be careful, because anesthesia meds, you got to be careful when you put them on, then you got to be careful when you take them back off. But it's well worth exploring, because it seems a pretty decent dose for a man like your dad. It would be worth exploring with them. Can we drop back on that and see if he starts to come alive a little bit? Yeah. Thank you, Donnie, for coming and sharing your question. It's a great question. I mean, and it's a unfortunately very common question as people don't know what to do in facilities and agencies and organizations sometimes and they try, they just are not really aware of options of what can be done sometimes.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rachel, what else have we got cooking in the pot here?
So speaking of some other challenging situations, we have two people that are really struggling with hallucinations and how to support someone with fairly significant Lewy body and pretty intense hallucinations. I thought maybe we could explore that a little bit.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about the hallucinations.
Jennifer?
Oh, okay. Wasn't sure who. The hallucinations, I want to say they started a little over a month ago. It was like overnight. We woke up and mom just talking to things in the corner, like lamps, various objects, and just various things around the house or people. Looks at a door down the hallway or in a corner. There's people everywhere.
And
Okay,
we've
so there's a lot
tried
of people.
everything, adjusted lighting. So we've adjusted lighting through the house. We have a sundowning schedule in place. We have communication icons throughout. We've tried moving objects at the end of hallways to eliminate those shadows. We've tried redirecting. We've tried the acknowledging. We've tried like, oh, how does that, you seem a little worried by that. Like, how does that make you feel? Oh, I could see it. Well, let's go look over here. And we've redirected and everything, but it's to the point where the delusions are also kicking in. And it's just wave after wave after wave. And unfortunately, we've just started medication in September with citalopram of 10 milligrams. And we're at the 30 milligram dose right now, and it caps out at 40.
It's really scratchy.
Yeah. Shift your body a little bit toward the middle of the screen if you can when you're talking each. So to see if we can get a better microphone pickup, I think is what it might be.
Closer too. Is that a little better?
Yes. Perfect. Much better.
Okay. We have that's where we're at. So, or reception.
Gotcha. I hear you. Yeah. I'm familiar with that when I'm at home. So so tell me, say what she's on again, because that's when you sort of cut out a little bit.
She started with 10 milligrams of citalopram September. It went up to 20, September, October, November. It went up another 10 milligrams. And then in January, it went up another 10 milligrams. So we're at a total dose of 30 milligrams of just citalopram. And we're just beginning the medication process, but the only time we saw a difference was the first time she was on it. And
It was before hallucinations started.
yeah, and then the second increase helped, but then the hallucinations kicked in, and now we're just getting our butts handed to us.
Okay, so now here's what we want to know is, here's what I want to know is, what kind of dementia is she diagnosed with? Does she have a specific diagnosis?
Frontotemporal.
How sure are they that it's just frontal temporal and it doesn't involve some Lewy body?
So he's 100% solid on the FTD diagnosis, but unfortunately, we haven't even mentioned the idea of Lewy body to him, because a lot of the testing that is involved would require sedating mom, and it would not come out good afterwards. The risk way the rewards.
Okay, well, the reaction to the meds is very consistent with somebody who has a Lewy body condition, because what happens with Lewy body is you can start off, one time you give the med, you get great results and you're thinking, yeah, this is the right track. This is really coming together. I'm feeling it. Okay. And we're going to just adjust it and it's going to be great. And then all of a sudden it goes to hell in a handbasket. And it's like,
Yep.
what the heck is going on here? And it's mostly Lewy body, which is the synuclein protein malformations, and it's primarily in the core of the brain. And so it often involves some emotional distress, but also lots of time sequencing problems. And then for people who are living with Lewy body, then we see a lot of delusional thinking and a lot of hallucinations that are problematic hallucinations. A lot of people, animals, or children that are problematic. And you've tried a lot of good strategies to reduce the misperception of objects. And this is like, it could be anything. This jar, there's a little kid on my counter and so are the hallucinations and delusions that she's having, is there a negative edge to a lot of them?
There's a lot of, like, our dog, we have a puggle, and he'll leave his toy on the floor, and sometimes it's a severed head or it's a dead body, like things like that. There's like,
that's pretty
for some dolls
significant.
that, they don't have a head.
Yeah, so whether it's truly a Lewy body phenomena or whether it's frontal temporal that's not responding well to citalopram, it's time to say, whoa, I think we should back down on this, because boy, this has just really gotten significantly worse. And you don't need to go 10 weeks through this to get the feel of it. I mean, this is, wow, that's a major thing that you can identify that leads to, and you guys are doing really excellent work at trying to help her manage her distress. This is just adding distress to distress for her. How well is she eating things that you're preparing?
About as well as wrestling with the badger and trying to neuter it.
Okay, yeah, because she can't trust you. She doesn't, nothing is good. You can't be trusted. You're trying to poison me. Get it out of here. I'll knock it out of here. Get out. I said, get your ass out of here now, or I'll take you out.
I'm just like mom right now.
Have you met her before by chance?
Well, I have, but she had a different name at the time, but yeah. So, this is the kind of thing where somebody at a distance can say, oh, well, let's just keep doing this. And you guys who are up close are going, are you serious? It's just like, this doesn't make sense. And this is one of those situations where I'll go, wow, I don't know that staying on this med makes any sense whatsoever, because it's truly not doing the thing that you were initially asking for it for, which is to elevate her mood and to help her feel more positive about living. And that's not what you're getting. And it's like, let's pause and back off of this, because for her system, it is not working and it's getting worse. And it's directly linked with timing. Cheryl?
So Teepa, I have met with Jennifer and Brittany, and I'm not sure if they shared, or I didn't hear them share that her mom is 57.
Ouch.
As well
Yeah,
as Jennifer has moved in, and she is like her mom's care partner 24/7, and she has shared, and Jennifer, you can let me know or let us know if this is still happening, but she has shared that when she is the bouncer of this person or thing, that her mom has relaxed, but she genuinely has to be the bouncer of, I'm getting it, mom, I'm getting it.
Mm-hmm.
That's still working for you, Jennifer, or no?
Yeah, that was working until the delusions that now I'm the bad guy.
Yeah, we've progressed since the last time you've spoken with us. It's gone from Jennifer being able to be the bouncer to the one that Jennifer needs to bounce now. So it's progressed significantly since the last time we spoke. So
yeah. So, I mean, you guys are doing a remarkable job of really trying lots of strategies. So it's time to go back, I would think, to the doctor and say, you know what? We need to back off of this for right now. I mean, maybe we can try again later, but for right now, this is not getting us in the road we want to be on. And we need to call it, because this is getting, and I'm going to use a word really quite seriously, dangerous.
Yeah.
This is approaching dangerous because she won't take food. She doesn't trust you for drink. We are rapidly approaching electrolyte imbalance if we're not careful. And this med is not working well for her in this instance. I think it's a pretty safe bet to say. And if we were to back it down, back it off, can 10 milligrams help? We don't know. I mean, I'm wondering whether indeed what's going on here is that her frontal temporal is definitely more pronounced, but what you're experiencing is not a frontal temporal dementia.
So
they as a rule do not have hallucinations. They as a rule do, I mean, I'll speak to, I can check in with Lynn there. They will not have hallucinations. They don't have delusions like that. That's more classically an involvement of synuclein protein malformations or Lewy body conditions. Lynn, do
So
you want
then how do we test for this without affecting her afterwards? And then
we
how
don't
would
test
we
for it. We
change
use the
the
symptom. Yeah, I wouldn't push her for testing right now at all. I would say, well, the symptoms are significant for hallucinations and delusional thinking. Let's back off the med and see if that reduces back. Not eliminate it, but get it back so it's manageable. And see if it eliminates completely, or if it's, because it can be a delusional, it can be caused by medications. Now that would be a very odd cause and effect. That's not a typical reaction to an antidepressant. That's at that level. It's not a severely high dose. And if is that the only med she's on for that?
So she takes, we have natural support vitamins like gummies that help keep her calm. And then we have melatonin that we give throughout the day. And we stagger those Jen's done freaking phenomenal coming up with a way to stagger those coupled with her program in the morning. So, but it's getting to the point where the melatonin isn't helping mom sleep and
Because of all the voices and all the people she sees.
so then the calming gummies at this point are probably just a snack.
Yeah. All right. So Lynn, do you want to chime in with FTD symptoms, because you're living with it? Have you had, and you talk with other people who have FTD, anything that you want to bring to the table from your perspective on it?
I don't have anything like what they're describing with her. No, I think that's completely different. I think there's a different dementia going on here. Something else is happening.
So it's not that she doesn't have FTD. She's really young and she could have a combo, which is really miserable. It's not great. It's just like, could it be worse? Yeah, apparently it could, and sure enough, what have you got in the house? A combo.
Oh.
But that she has this shifting on the kind of meds, and she has delusions, and she has hallucinations. That's sort of symptom-wise, profile-wise, and that you can calm her classically. I mean, you were able to calm her before, but as you've upped the medicine, it has gotten totally out of control.
Right, that's got to stop.
The other thing too is when we had introduced this citalopram, mom was really, really stressy and depressy, and now she's angsty and ready to pick a fight. So it's so interesting to see how we've gone from being inconsolable, depressed, to ready to throw hands. And I think about what you're saying about medication moving back down, but what would we do after we titrate her medication back down if we continue to see these problems? And what are our other medication options at this point?
Yeah, there are.
We've asked about
come back and talk to us after you get her off this, because getting her down off of this is step one. I mean, she has so many negative side effects, and it just appears, I mean, you can talk to him, but man, this is so tightly linked. and you didn't see these things before. I mean, this was not something you saw before. This is sounding a whole lot like a medication related phenomena. So if you get her down off of this and you still see something, let us know, and then we can talk again about what are some other alternatives you might look at.
Yeah, we've been at this point, but we've been told that CBD wouldn't be a good option because then it could confuse her even more. So it's just so hard right now.
It is. What I would say
And
is,
mind you, like,
yeah, and you might need some CBD yourself.
like
I mean, I'm not joking. I'm actually not kidding there to take some of the distressor away. I mean, it might try a gummy and see how it goes, you know.
The furnace, have everyone happy.
Laura?
I was just wondering, this brings up something that I was thinking about for Donnie and his father is, you know, if you say, okay, I think these drugs are really too much. But then somebody in the chat wrote that gabapentin is really, it's pretty difficult to get off of. And citalopram is supposed to be pretty difficult to get off of.
You have to wean back down.
In this small, would you have to, I mean, it would be, wow, that's just like putting him through something else to get him off.
So it takes a while. Yeah, you got to drop it back. But you know, the first thing is to recognize we got to drop this back and see what happens, because you don't want to just cold turkey start, cold turkey stop. I mean, these kind of meds, because that's, you bring them up for a reason, you drop them back.
Yeah.
But the problem is people can become toxic on them. And that's the concern, is you get toxic, and then you got to figure out how to get this done. So that's where you want to talk and say, you know, this is like super worse, and this is like totally different and not at all what we're looking for. And see whether they say, okay, well, let's titrate them down. In other words, bring it down a little at a time, or we just need to take her off that and clear the system. And it's variable. It's rare with the gabapentin because it's an anti-seizure med, and you got to be careful with that one. With the citalopram, you can, sometimes people will drop it back pretty quick. It just depends. And especially if they suspect toxicity.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to continue to add a medication that's toxic to the individual.
Right.
And that's the challenge. Some people do not do well on certain meds at all. And we just got to recognize it's not a good match for them.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's the right class, but maybe it's not the right drug. And it makes it tricky because people, well, it's usually good for, and it's like, well, usually good for and good for this person are two different things.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you have young onset dementia, I think there's that really missing piece of understanding. This is a very young brain, but this young brain is struggling mightily with the changes that are taking its toll. And so what we would expect in a normal, healthy brain with depression is not what's happening here. And again, it's to some extent being used on label, but off label, because the primary diagnosis is a dementia. And so the depressed affect with the dementia, straight out depression, possibly. Could it be due to the frontal component of this, of not being able to control moods? And that's not going to respond real well to an antidepressant because it's not the same thing. It's not actually depression. It's something a little different. So it's complicated, but I definitely think it's sort of like, yikes, time to say, whoa, pause. We need something different here, boss. And let him watch some of the interaction that you're having, so he gets a sense. Make a little video, share it with him. Because sometimes they think, oh, well, it's, you know, you guys are just exaggerating. It's like, yeah, no. This is not an exaggeration. Because again, that's what people tend to think. Well, it's probably not that bad. You're just a stressed out carer. And it's like, I don't think so. I mean, yes, I'm stressed out, but I don't think that's what this is.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, Teepa, there's one other thing, and it doesn't sound like it's this lady's situation, but if everyone else out there is, you know, hearing this, it sounds like their situation. Just one last question. Your mom hasn't had recent heart surgery, has she? Okay. I didn't think so. It just so much sounds very much like that post-operative psychoses that we see sometimes in older folks, mainly heart surgery. And the way that they'll describe very actively, very matter-of-factly sometimes is the bodies in the hallway and they just don't clean up the blood and there's pieces. This is ridiculous. Very distressing images that are visual hallucinations. And this has been seen again and again, and it has to do with an inflammatory response. So if you're listening and this could be either some sort of allergic reaction, either way, it's a delirium. This does sound different. I wanted to differentiate between this because it sounds so much. And if you're listening, that may be, Teepa, anything with that, is it that you've heard about that is higher likelihood in dementia?
Not with younger people, more with older adults, yes, with cardiac problems, but not so much with young onset.
Yeah, 70 plus.
Yeah, I mean, that just doesn't ring true. It just feels like, eeks, it's time to really look hard at that med.
That and the amount of time, it sounds like that your mom has really been dealing with this is way, if it was post-surgery, I would be extra concerned.
Yeah.
No, she's pretty healthy. I mean, her blood pressure is good. Oh, she is on blood pressure medication, lisinopril.
But Jesse's responding well too.
Yeah, so her blood pressure is good. We had her checked for
yours?
Her A1Cs. That
We're not gonna talk about that.
we're dead on the inside. It's fine.
Left on the inside.
Okay.
I'm coming with like years of experience in caregiving myself, and I'm trying to teach Jen everything, but I can't.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's
Everything. So
check in with Cheryl. Check back with Cheryl after you get a chance, and check in with us again if you would. We'd love to sort of follow up and see what goes next, because this is not a good
we have a
place.
doctor appointment.
Cool. Yeah.
So the Jennifer and Brittany are registered for dementia problem solving. So maybe by next month, we'll have some
Cool
changes and we can.
next things we can talk about. Yeah. Cool. Excellent. Thanks, guys. Ugh, yuck. All right. Rachel.
Man, we have lots of questions. So Anna is in the room as well. And she is really trying to be as Sapphire as she can manage, but it's really hard. And so her mom is 87, or I guess she's working with someone that's 87 years old and has been diagnosed with progressive cognitive decline consistent with dementia. So she's waiting for these next steps in the diagnosis process, but she's trying to figure out what can she do to not focus so much on the fact that her mom takes scratching. So she's scratching so much that she's basically scratching and pulling all her hair out.
All of this is gone. Yeah.
All of it. Yeah. So she's got this hype. Is it, does she describe it as it's itching or something else?
She says it's because we, first we thought it was the salon, then after 3 trips to the dermatologist, it's dander and you cannot say anything else. And then it's the defensive.
Yeah. And is she pulling her hair or just digging at it so much that the hair becomes fragile and fractures and breaks off?
Exactly. Wow. Yeah. Because I'm having to put like Neosporin on certain areas. So it's exactly, the hair is just, it's the scratching.
It's the constant. So she really needs to use her fingers. Her anxiety is so high. Does she describe any pain in her head? Because
every morning she says there's a soreness. She wakes up with a soreness.
A sore neck?
No, soreness.
Soreness up here.
Soreness.
So she's got soreness. And they don't know what kind of dementia she has. They haven't gotten that far, just that it's progressive.
Correct. The first neurologist was not helpful. So I'm with a new neurologist, but I think we're doing neuropsychological testing, but my appointment is June.
Have you been doing this too, or how are you doing with your hair? It looks pretty good, but it could go either way with this,
It could,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I want to make sure that in this time of not knowing, which dementia she has, that I'm doing the best. And do I just let it, she's been on donozapine and she got very depressed. So we took her off of that. Then it was duloxetine and then fluoxetine, the psychiatrist who did it, and nothing's working. So I'm just thinking, do I just let her enjoy scratching and just let it go?
Okay, so sometimes people, what other symptoms does your mom have of this progressive, what kind of things have you noticed for her? What are some of the changes that you've noticed with her that you've picked up on?
So short-term memory is gone, but mom will tell. So my mother was very active, driving, traveling, cooking, everything pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm real, I was starting to see things, but she when I say she covered it well, she did, but at the same time, she's been saying since 2019, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, okay, so she's been identified. When she said that, did she give you when she would say that, I feel like I'm losing my mind, did you say, tell me more about that? And would she be able to tell you? Oh, okay.
I didn't, and so, and we would have nurses that was, I just found out about your group and Teepa on the 21st of February. And some of the things, so a nurse would say, okay, tell me, these 3 things. And then at the end, and she would remember them. So it was like, well, Mom, you don't, the typical, you don't have it, but my mother was constantly saying she did.
So she was asking for help, and people kept saying, no, you're fine. 3 number, you should be able to just, 3 is fine. No, 5 is normal. That's not okay. I mean, somebody should have said, how many does she usually hold on to? Well, that's what she should be holding on to. If she didn't hold on to that many, we should be having more conversation. So it sounds like she was scared a little bit, even in 2019, that something was going wrong. And she had some level of awareness. It wasn't like she was covering it, but she could do routine things without too much trouble at all. And she could handle even things that, many people would find difficult because she was really skillful. And so it didn't show up in daily life because that wasn't, it's not that bad yet.
She still tells people, she'll say, my sister had the looks, but always had the brains. And she says, but now I'm losing even that. So she's still aware.
Yeah, but she's aware of change. She gets it.
Extremely.
She really gets it. And so when somebody gets it, there is a strong element of, I hate this. I hate feeling incompetent. I hate being incompetent. I don't like this sense that I'm not the me I've always been, and I don't know what to do about it. And the automatic reflex is to want to tear your hair out. I mean, it's a very natural, I want my brain back. I want it to work right. And I want it. And so this sense of trying to get this to be right and to also feel like this isn't right. And being sore, I mean, that could be a description for, I can't seem to get this to be better. And I'm doing everything I know how I want to hold this together, and I feel like I'm coming apart. And quite literally coming apart. And so this is this effort to try to manage this. So she sounds scared, quite honestly. And this, all this testing is probably, in her mind, this anticipatory testing and the being tested, and but
doctor after doctor.
Yeah, that her sense of self has really been challenged, and she's super anxious. And so is she doing things that are good for her body? And is she sort of doing anything like something that could put some of the energy out here in feeling confident and competent versus this sense of cycling in here?
Honestly, no. And my mother is an extrovert. So she's people.
Yep.
You know, and we locked mom down. I mean, when pandemic started, it was like, so we've started last week. She's had 2 lunch dates and she had a blast. So I'm trying to get her out more. But I think what you're saying is that is what it is. And that's why these medicines are not working.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is coming from some of her dementia. I mean, this is her way of trying to I've got to do something with this. And giving her things to do out here is going to help her not be so frustrated. I think she's really mad or frustrated with herself that she can't fix this, that she can't.
She's verbalized that.
Yeah.
She's verbalized that.
And yet she has so many skills, so many talents, so many abilities, and she's not getting a chance to use those much. And that's where she's getting really sucked into this cycling through. And in many dementias, we see people cycle through conversations. I think your mom is cycling in this kind of thing. This is her trying to figure this out. She gets really stuck in that.
She does.
Yeah. So finding some more outlets. Does she love to sing?
No, but she loves to talk.
Okay. All right. Will she do any tabletop games? Does she enjoy any tabletop games with people, or just
we
talk?
play gin rummy at least once a week. But she's tired of being in the house. I've got to find ways to get her out. I think we're all tired of being in the house.
I mean, we've got to build up her other things and engagement, because she's got to come out of this space of self-loss and self-beating herself up sort of thing, which is because it's not helping her. It's just really wearing her out. So I think, for right now, she really needs some self-affirmation stuff. And does she mind her hair being what it is? Does she look at herself in the mirror?
So she has a wig now. And but what I found is, so she'll put it on, but in a matter of minutes, she's here. So it's going everywhere. And so, especially in public, at home, I just let it go. But in public, I'll try to arrange it, and she will leave me alone.
Yeah. Because it's too intense. And so that may feel better just having it open than having anything on it, because it's just triggering some of that sense of, there's something wrong up here. There's something wrong up here.
Okay.
So if she's somebody who maybe could handle a silk scarf, something silky that she could mess with. Also looking at, what are her nails like right now? Are they trimmed back, or?
I have to, she loves nails, but we've kept them trimmed.
And are they painted? Are they well painted?
Painted.
Okay, and can you do some finger massage, some really sort of heavy work with her fingers, and see if you can engage her hands and maybe some hand massage and lotion with her hands, and working with lotion with her hands and hand massage to see if you can use her hands differently.
We just went and she used to crochet, and her granddaughter's about to have a great grand. So we just today went to get some yarn. So I'm hoping that works out. So more hand.
Something that she can engage that's a repetitive thing with her hands.
Okay.
But it has to be something she's definitely comfortable. So somebody's suggesting the possibility of some prednisone. The challenge with the prednisone.
Isn't that fluoxetine? Isn't it the same thing?
It's a variation of it. It's different though. It is different, but
okay.
Those are all. Prednisone has potential to have. It's possible. It's systemic. You want to be thoughtful with it, because it can cause some mood stuff for folks. So it's not a freebie. And I'm not sure that's what's wrong with your mom. I'll be honest. I don't know that that's what she's doing. I think she's really trying to give you signals of, I need to get something to change.
She says, I'm just having to dumb down.
And that's where you feel like you're dumbing down, Mom. I know you're brilliant, but it feels that way to you, and I hate it for you. I hate that you're feeling that way. Can you help me with something? And then move into a helping you mode and find some things that she still is very quite competent at helping you with.
Okay.
Because she's really trapped right now in this sense of incompetence, and this testing stuff has really triggered for her. I know there's something wrong with me, and it went on for so long where she knew it and people were not acknowledging it. And that's a really frustrating place to be, because she knows she's not herself.
Yeah.
She knew it, and that's not okay. It's sort of like people aren't willing to acknowledge what I know. And so it makes you want to pull your hair out because you don't feel listened to. I mean, there's lots of things about that resonate. And Beth identified there's actually a syndrome that you can have with it. And it's a cycling phenomena. But I think you're doing some more positive things that are going to change that around. It's just got to be more giving her something to direct herself toward, other than self-harm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, Teepa, it sounds like if it's something that has become more of a compulsion, like however it sort of started, and the idea of, oh, it's this sort of thing, and or not having something else to focus on. And if it's now a compulsion, it may be more associated with the certain types of dementia. When your mom gets to that diagnosis part, that part of the brain is affected. So if you have a lean towards it already, that it can exacerbate this into a compulsion. But I think it sounds like in terms of management, once they get that figured out, they might be able to key in on that. But in the meantime, that the whole crocheting for her great grand, she might have to talk about that with you too. As she's doing it, that's like that social part.
Okay. Because she is very social, and it's been difficult for her the last year.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, for both of you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. Cool.
You're amazing.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Rachel?
So Teepa, another person in the room is our friend Bill. And I think we've talked with him before, but this time, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll try to get it close. But his wife is kind of moving into going back, talking about her mom. The problem was that her mom was really demeaning, was kind of a dysfunctional family and relationship. So she's really getting quite upset, not only talking to Bill about it, but also talking to the people in the facility. So Bill's questions, trying to figure out, she's on some medication like Seroquel for depression. But how can I help to take her mind off of the delusional conversation, because she's telling him about her conversations with her mom? How can he help to reduce her anxiety? Is that close, Bill?
It is.
Okay. So has your wife historically, was she somebody who liked to look at stuff, talk about stuff, or do stuff, or all three?
All three.
All three. So when she would look at things, what sorts of things would really draw her eye? Was it more colors, or was it more action, or was it more objects? What kind of things would really be eye catchers for her?
She loved gardening. She was a master gardener.
Okay.
Interestingly, I took her on a ride today for the first time in quite a while. I'm in the part of the South where things are starting to bloom already. So we're cherry trees in bloom all over the place. And we had a really nice ride time. And as soon as we got back to the facility, it was back to her mom again.
back to her mom again. So I'm wondering how much of being in that location, how many older people are around her?
She is probably the youngest at 72 in the skilled nursing facility she's in.
Yeah. So she has a lot of mothers around her. And I would say if you were to check in with her, she would not necessarily realize she's 72. She's younger than that in her mind.
I'm sure that's correct because she doesn't believe we'll be married 50 years this year.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and another interesting fact, I let her hair go natural and it went gray. And one day after her brain fog went away, after we got her off a bunch of medication, she said, I don't like my old lady gray hair.
You got it. Yeah.
So I got her hair colored as a Christmas present and she was a happy camper.
You got it. Yeah. So she's seeing herself as relatively pretty young. I mean, in her 30s, maybe early 40s. And so when she comes back to this place, there's her mother all over again. So these negative, toxic old memories get reinforced visually because she's very visual. I mean, she is super visual about stuff. And so she comes back in the house, here's mom again. I mean, and there's lots of moms there who probably are not real happy, excited people. They probably are, you know, moving around and not real interactive. They have negative voices on occasion. So unfortunately, she's accurate in that her mother's there, but it's not, then that just reminds her of her mom. And so then we start talking about her mom again, because it's visually being triggered by all the older people around her.
Interesting. Never thought about that.
Yeah. So it's when you tell me she's really visual. Now, the good news is she's also very kinesthetic. She likes doing things. So I'm wondering about getting a couple of seed catalogs. I don't know if Park
Seed, yeah. I've taken, excuse me, I've taken her lots of catalogs that come to the house. That part of her brain is gone.
Doesn't work. Okay. So do they have an outside space?
Yeah, there's a courtyard, which I take her to while she's there, and they do as well.
Yeah, and I would say, let's get out of here. Let's get away from this mom thing. Let's get her out. Let's get her out more and more into the outdoors where the other people aren't, because I'm betting not many of them go out there.
Much fewer, for sure.
Yeah. And then let's look at putting some, like, would they be okay if you got a couple of plants for her to put in out there that are sort of things that she could look at out there and you could get her to help care for out there?
Interesting thought. They do plant vases or pots and things as part of the facility activities group.
Yep. So I'm wondering if she came back with if you guys went out and you got petunias, I mean, that doesn't have to be anything like a little plant thing of petunias, and she came back and you went immediately outside to do some planting and some things like that, so that we're not sort of spending a lot of time looking at these old people that are starting that whole sequence in her mind again.
We could do that, but I'm afraid that would be a pretty small percentage of
it is going to be a small percent. Yeah. And so where do they have her spending time? Where does she spend a lot of her time?
When I'm there, we're usually, because of COVID, we're in her room. Otherwise, she may be in the room, but also maybe in the community area. With the old ladies, with her mothers.
With a bunch of her moms. So when you're in the room alone, can you get her distracted at all in the room, or is it still about her mom even when you're in her room?
Unless I put some music CD on or watch the television, conversation over the last 6 weeks constantly comes back to conversation she had with her mom and being demeaned and all that.
Yeah. And so just one out of curiosity, have you ever said your mom was a real shit?
She tells me that. I don't have to tell her that. But no, I don't. I have not.
Have you ever agreed with her? You know what? I don't know how you turned out to be the amazing woman you are, given how much your mother beat you up.
Yeah, we have had conversations like that. I told her I'm there just, you know, I'll support her, I'll defend her, but it's
Yeah.
not working yet.
No, yeah. And I would say it's so deeply embedded. I mean, her mom did horrible damage to her. I mean, and now she's back with all these old women again. It's like, oh no. And she probably, how much does she have friends there? Would you say any of them her friends?
No, not really.
She made any kind, I mean, does she have any relationship really with any of them?
Not at all.
Not at all.
And she was the
Yeah.
social one.
Yeah, and so she's there, but she can't really be social because all these people are just her mom all over again.
Yeah,
And
apparently.
yeah, and so you're her one social outlet. So it doesn't surprise me, or the staff, the younger staff. And so she's going to complain about her mom to all those people because she doesn't have anybody else really to be with and to do things with. And so she feels fairly, you know it, and I know it, she feels sort of trapped there. And when you get her out, you're getting a whole lot less of talking about mom because she's out doing something that she likes.
Yeah, well, we had a distraction, yeah.
Yep. Yep. So anybody else has some thoughts? Because I mean, the challenge is the environment she is, that's what she's got. She's got these women that are reminding her immediately of her mom right away. And she doesn't have a relationship with any of them. And given their abilities, I suspect this isn't going to develop into something positive because she doesn't have any role models or relationships that were positive relationships with older women.
No, and most of the women there are further along the dementia spectrum than she is. And
so
she knows, she recognizes that. She still has that awareness.
Yeah.
What?
And she doesn't like them. They don't like her. I mean, there's no relationship building there.
No.
Yeah. Any thoughts anybody else has of things we could try? Cheryl?
Yeah, I'm just curious if she has a relationship with any of the staff members.
She's recently begun at least remembering a few staff members' names. She will tell me, oh, this aide's a nice person. What kind of relationship they have, I'm really not sure, Cheryl.
Because I'm just thinking that maybe like somebody in the workplace, the staff may build a good relationship in the activation department, maybe.
There's been
They
like
run
a lot
mostly, do they run mostly groups or are they just doing one-on-ones these days, Bill? What are they?
They're back to doing groups.
And she don't want to go to that.
Well, no, she'll
go.
She'll go. I mean, she'll pretty much go anywhere they take her.
And when she goes, will she participate with them?
I understand that she does. Wasn't allowed any more recently to be at any of the activities.
Okay, well, hopefully that's changing. I mean,
I hope, well,
I'm sure hoping.
Yeah, the other contributing factor is, like most nursing facilities, the staff turnover has been horrendous.
Yeah,
So
it's really bad right now. I mean, they're gone. They're here, they're gone.
Yeah.
It's really bad right now for turnover in many locations. I mean, it's just like people are here, gone, here, gone, here, gone. So it makes it really hard for her to establish a relationship.
Yeah.
So I would say more frequently, if it's okay for her to come off the unit, you guys should come off the unit and go somewhere, because what I'm hearing you say is things like books and that kind of thing no longer draw her eye, draw her attention.
No, if you see behind me, those are all her books. She was a voracious reader.
Yeah. Yeah, and she can't do a lot of that anymore.
No.
She also doesn't have the ability to have conversations that are very deep or very long. They're pretty surface contact.
Yeah, we have movie days every once in a while, and a Benji movie has a good, simple plot. Those go over well.
Those are great. Yeah, so animal movies that are action, sort of those fun kid action sort of movies, she's going to have appeal for. So that younger element, and a predictable plot line too. She likes sort of some of the predictability.
Yeah, and simple.
And pretty simple. Yeah. Sandra, were you wanting to comment on this or something else? Were you thinking of commenting?
I was thinking of commenting.
Okay, cool. I saw your hand. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know what the COVID protocols are, but I'm wondering, did she like to dance? Did she?
We never did because I wasn't much of a dancer.
Well, and what would?
And let me interrupt. Her mobility is wheelchair resident right now.
Okay.
Oh, there are some magnificent wheelchair dancing videos that a person can see, but I'm also wondering, what about intergenerational? Would little kids put her back into the mother mode, or would little kids be a distraction? We have some very successful programs here with multi-generational integration.
Good. We never had children, but she always focused on little kids programs in her master gardening and that sort of thing.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, I don't know what this facility would be willing to do, but as COVID protocols change, maybe somehow the activities could open up.
I've got a care plan. I've got a care plan meeting next week. It'll be a great time to bring something like
teenagers, young kids, particularly. So our 5-year-old who's vaccinated has been teaching art, and it's gone over quite well. Did you know you can make rainbows from 3 primary colors? Everybody in the group learned, and everybody had a good time, and everybody engaged with him. So yeah, having kids be active in the program might be something that would draw her in and give again. If you have anybody that you could Shanghai and bring their kid.
Unfortunately, my neighbors, I'd have to hunt for some of them.
I hear you. Well, if we were closer in North Carolina, you could rent one. We've got a couple.
Also here, we have a very, very successful, it actually started as a research project, but an intergenerational choir with high school students.
Yeah.
And the high school students love it. And so maybe that kind of initiative could come from the school. I don't know. These are.
Yeah, no, those are great ideas, Sandra, because we're talking beyond the people who live there. To her building relationships with people who are younger, who don't have that vibe. So she feels alive, because she doesn't like feeling that sense of incomplete that she always felt. So
I can't see the name, like Anna, she's still very aware of her
changes.
Even though the dementia's moving pretty far along.
Yeah, she's got it. She knows that she's got something wrong. Yeah, somebody was suggested animal therapy. If they've started back up their animal therapy program.
They still have that going on, and she loves to see Emily the dog.
Okay, so looking at whether or not Emily also can do something like fetching a sock that's thrown with a sock, with a ball and a sock, so that it gives her something she can throw more easily and readily for Emily to bring back.
Well, I'll work on that with our dog, which I can also take.
Cool, excellent, good, yeah. So it's something to do and see and not be involved in this other stuff going on with these old people, which for her is this negative place to be.
Yeah, actually, on our ride today, we went to a city park. They had a dog park. So I said, we'll just bring our dog back and we'll play with the dog here.
There you go. Yeah, so lots of those kinds of things. So trying maybe to not be so involved with the people that trigger her, and more opportunities to do things, truly doing things, rather than talking so much, because talking seems to trigger that also. Cool.
Great ideas.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for coming and asking. Good. Good job.
Everybody always has good suggestions.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Excellent team. Okay, Rachel, you've got 3 minutes. What do we got?
Well, I don't know if we can fit this in, but I thought we could try with Sandra because we kind of know the situation and humor has changed. So now it's getting tricky to know whether something's actually funny or not. So how do you tell if it's humor and you can't really ask for clarification because
Yeah,
it ends
so-
up we're getting more nonsense or not making sense too.
So some of the things that are said or what he puts out there is like, are you joking or is this nonsense stuff? Because I'm not positive, but you can't really ask. So are you joking? You know, so can you give us an example of a phrasing that he might use and that causes your brain to go, am I supposed to laugh? Or is this something that's not actually very funny? Of course, nothing will come to you.
Right, you know, right now I can't remember. They were going on last night at like 12 o'clock with me trying to fix his iPhone because it was doing weird things and he couldn't figure out why. And this is after he had already dealt with his pills and his dosers and being really confused about what was what. And and you know, we'll just add the war into all of that. And so it's been really taxing. And he just started, I couldn't tell if he was being snarky.
Yeah, because he has a history of snarky. I mean, that's sort of a pattern. But now, given your other descriptions of things that had led up to that, I'm suspecting it's true confusion. I think it really is. He doesn't quite get what's going on and his brain doesn't. So for his not liking it, it's very different than Anna's mom who's doing this. His is zing, 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 zing. He zings you with stuff, but he's not skilled enough at it now to be good at it. So now it's just sort of, huh? What are you talking about? And you either want to say, are you joking or what are you talking about? And neither of those reactions are helpful. And you know that.
Right.
And so in this case, chuckling could be perceived as, so you think this is funny. And it's like, so all of a sudden now you're in an argument, which wasn't where you were heading because you're trying to minimize distress. So this one is a challenge because if this happens earlier in the day, it may very well be humor. But at this point in the day, yeah, this is not between one thing and another. This is surely not coming together. Maybe a comment more along that line, depending on what he says. You know, this is surely not coming together. I'll give you that. Because he needs some kind of affirmation. We know that he likes affirmation, but you got to be careful because this is not coming together. Sounds like a phrase that might make sense in a lot of conversations that he's having with you, which aren't really conversations. He makes a comment and then he's looking for the other side of the street, but it's not clear what that's supposed to be in this case.
Well, I'm supposed to agree with him.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's sure not coming together, that's for sure.
No, right. And this is after, what did he hear? What did he not hear? What did he think he heard?
So that wow statement, wow, that's sure not coming together. Whoa, that was not what I expected. You know, whoa, wow, you know, those kind of words that keep you from getting yourself in trouble. Because he does like, did you hear me? And it's like, wow. You know, that's something, isn't it? That is something. Wow, that is something. And don't try to figure, this is where I am going to caution. Do this, Sandra. You're not trying to figure it out at 12 a.m. I mean, it ain't going to
know.
At 12 a.m. I mean, it's like new brain, new day. He's got to get back to zero before you can start this because he's exhausted. I mean, whether he understands he's exhausted or not, he doesn't have a lot of insight frequently at all. So he doesn't know how exhausted he is. And he doesn't understand how blurry his thoughts probably are at that point, which is why you're having trouble with lots of devices at that point. because he's trying to engage with devices in ways that don't make sense to his brain. And his brain is really flustered with all this. And you're in the middle of all of it. So you make a very, very prime sort of like target in some ways.
Oh, yeah.
Which you're familiar with. So looking at his frustration with something, and I would look at sort of how frustrated is his body, because he may be giving you body cues more than verbal cues. So take a look at hands and shoulders and things like that, and hands on hips or other body part postures. Yeah, that sort of thing may be definitely signs I'm feeling very vulnerable right now. Yeah.
Well, he'll tell me he can't say anything to me. He's better if he just keeps his mouth shut. And I'm not sure I agree, but sometimes I ask him to not say anything, and he keeps on talking, and I just go, what part of please don't say anything do you not understand? And that's not helpful.
Oh, Sandra. Oh, Sandra. Oh, Sandra. That's just, you're just kicking the dog.
I know.
I know. It's such a hard habit, though. Oh, yeah. So it's, and have you done that?
Oh, the kids do that.
You've not done that? Okay, good.
No, the kids do that.
Yeah, well.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Ooh, ouch, ouch, ouch. That's a really rough place to be. Oh, dear.
I have printed up 2 red stop signs, but I haven't used them.
Yeah, yeah. Because what do you think will happen if you put them up?
Oh, he'll take offense.
Well, he can't not. That's the hard part, is he just can't not. It's just, it's, you know, you need a break, he needs a break. Yeah, that's the reality. He needs a third party.
He does.
Yeah, well, that would have been thrown across the room. No, I don't, he'd rip them up more than he'd throw them across the room. And then throw them at Sandra, I think, because, you know, he is so irritated with he can't figure this stuff out. He needs a break, you need a break, and yet he doesn't know how to take it. So the question is, can you get into that, making sure you take one?
I can try. Yesterday, I never made it past the front door. So, but today I did.
Good. Well, today's a good day then.
It is.
Well, Rachel, thank you for helping us as much as you could get to questions. I know we didn't get to all the questions we had because we had a herd of questions. We'll keep working on doing some of the questions, probably at Teepa for 10 in the morning. Rachel and I have been working hard at adding some segments in there to try to get to some questions, and we will let people know when we post those up. So, and Matthew is pretty good at letting people know that we have those out there so that we can go and look at them. Beth, I know you took over for Matthew because he went to Ash Wednesday services. So, yep. So he headed out. So Beth, anything that you noticed from the YouTube world out there?
I did notice that Rachel was talking with some folks, and hopefully if there's some pieces that might be resolved and some steps forward, even if we can't do resolutions, that might be great for Teepa for Den. I didn't know, Rachel, if you had anything to add in along those lines. Is that pretty accurate for what's been going on? You've been really active out there too.
Yeah, we have been pretty active. But somebody was wondering about if someone has bowel issues, how do you get them to go on the toilet? Because they won't wear like incontinence briefs. So when he walks, it's just this little bit all the time, but there's never actually a one time and take care of it.
And empty. So that one's a bigger conversation that we can probably do in 2 seconds. What I would say is leaning forward and squatting, even not on a toilet, at least will empty things out better. So getting people to lean forward onto their knees and maybe a bedside commode or something, or just even standing, leaning forward. Let me see if I can scoot back far enough. Leaning forward and putting your elbows on your knees, if you can get something like that, often that puts your bowel. And then if you can do this verbal. And if you can stroke down either side of the spine over the adrenal glands and the kidneys with the heel of your hand, if holding onto the shoulder, it does help your bowels go, because that's that adrenal gland stroking, that stroking over those body parts can help encourage the release. And it's sort of it's a spontaneous sort of reflexive thing. And the grunting is that that bearing down, you're helping with the vasovagal, that vagal sort of vasovagal phenomena. Sort of like when women are pushing, push. Yeah, that's that sound we make when we're pushing crap out. Called that you're going to take care of for the rest of your life. Yeah.
It really does sound, Teepa, like this idea that if we're willing to model what we hope someone is able to copy, if we're willing to get vulnerable, we might be willing to give somebody a little bit of relief.
Yeah.
So thank you. And, unfortunately, one of the skills I do not have, I can do that modeling, that noise, but I don't have the exit song. So I do want to wish everyone an exit with something more melodious than that.
Well, thank you for tolerating my grunting behavior, but maybe you can go take care of business now in just a few seconds. I might have helped somebody out there empty something, but that's that thing of how do we change what's happening into what we want to have happen. And we got to be willing to try something that we would never have thought we would try. I've been remarkably successful at times at birthing babies that turn out to be large amounts of feces. Just saying.
Truly.
All right, everybody. Take care, and we will talk to you again. See you again soon. Be well, all.